time to strap in and get ready.
The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Metrics, and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys, and welcome back to another Insight NRL show. I am the Supercoach Brain, and I'm on deck tonight, Wednesday night, to cover all of Round 12's Insight Unlimited member questions. Now, if you want to become an Insight Unlimited member, you can still do that. Only costs you $20 for the rest of the NRL AFL seasons, but also included is the NBL and the BBL Supercoach seasons at Insight Fantasy Sports. So hop in my DMs if you want to become an Insight Unlimited member and get your questions answered on the podcast every single week. Now, of course, we do this every single week, and the show is brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead. And for those of us that have been in the home market for a while, you own your own home, or maybe you're looking to get into the market, it has been a pretty tough time for Australians over the last probably 18 months to 2 years with the interest rate rises over that time. And of course, if you do have an interest rate above 6.2% and you want to buy a home, maybe you've got a current home and you want to save some cash like the rest of us, or maybe you want to refinance, you want to renovate your current place. Ryan is your man. You can reach out to Ryan at Astute Newstead for an obligation and a cost-free inquiry. It's not going to cost you a thing. He'll just listen to you, have a chat about your situation, and find out how he can help you get that rate down, or at least free up some cash, or maybe help you borrow some more cash to improve things around the house. So you can access his link tree. It's in the description below. I've personally used Ryan and can vouch for Ryan myself, and he does a killer job. So you hit Ryan up, let him know that we sent you, and he will look after you, and it won't cost you a thing. Now, of course, we're here for the Insight Unlimited Q&A. We've got some banger questions here tonight. So let's, without further ado, jump into those. And to kick things off, we've got Matty Granger kicking things off with what is enough and how and when should we do it? Now, enough, the best way to, I guess, describe it is a nothing player. I think that's what the abbreviation comes from. Enough is a nothing player, somebody who will not play in your 25. So somebody who, I guess, it's really important, first of all, that they don't play every single week, because you don't want a bad player to come in and play and ruin potentially your VC loophole every single week. Now, obviously, if you get a bad automatic emergency on your bench, your VC kind of is dulled. If you get a really good score as your VC, you want to take that loop, but then you've got a Ben Murdoch-Masila last year, who was the king of this, plodding along on your bench, or a Franklin Pele, another one, VC killer last year, and he goes and gets 9 off the bench in 12 minutes or something like that. You have to take that 9 points in your score, because it's likely going to be your lowest. So that is the reason why people like to nuff at different times of the year, because it frees up maximum amount of cash. Usually it will be a dual position player to allow for flexibility, and it'll also be a basement price player. So someone that you're never going to play, you don't need them to play, you actually hope they don't play. Basically it frees up the cash for you to make an upgrade somewhere else. So that is enough. When and how should we do it? I guess is personal preference. I've heard actually people talking about nuffing already, which I think is insane. For me personally, it's definitely not the approach I'd like to take. I think nuff. I don't nuff, or I don't think about nuffing until at least at the very, very earliest, that third major buy. For me, I want to maximize the amount of available players that I have throughout that period. And I think we know now that the buy periods throughout the next 6-7 weeks can actually be quite challenging. So for me, I'm maximizing the amount of available, solid, good, reliable players in my squad for the first 19 weeks of the season, maybe even the first 20. And then for the run home, I'm happy to nuff maybe 1, 2, potentially even 3 players, depending on how many trades I have left. Now, have I nuffed this year? Not a chance. Like I mentioned, not my plan of attack, but I know that some people have already. I would not recommend nuffing more than 1 or 2 players at the absolute max, because we've still got a lot of football to be played, a lot of Supercoach to be played, and you want to make sure that you're making a decent run into the finals moving forward as well for the run home. So to maximize that rank and that head-to-head. So yeah, that is what nuffing is. When should you use it? Use it for the run home after round 20, personally, to really finalize your team and make the last couple of upgrades that you need. At the very earliest, I'd be making it round 19, I think. So hopefully that answers your question, Matty. The second one we've got here is from Second Solution. perfect timing that he's second, right? I have a CTW of Asako, Garrick, Lomax, Kale Iro, Marju, RTS, and Talangi. Would you say that is basically set and forget for the rest of the year? Well, I mean, for me, first of all, having RTS and holding him for the next 6 to 8 weeks potentially is definitely not optimal. With the 550k, I think he is at the moment, I would not be holding RTS. So if you can find the cash to go from RTS to another guy in your center wing, I would absolutely be doing that. And one guy that kind of screams out at me at the moment that hasn't been mentioned in that group is Jacob Carraz. I think Jacob Carraz with his bye flexibility, he plays round 13 and round 16. He also plays round 14, which could be a tricky week for some. Jacob Carraz, it could be a fantastic option there to get in for RTS if you have that little bit of extra cash. If you're a head-to-head player, I still don't think holding RTS is viable, but you've got plenty of options in your center wing. Dom Young is a prime target, I think, moving forward for the run home. I think Dom Young could be a top 5 center wing for the rest of the year. So I know, and that's not really even a hot take. Now, the second question, should I bring in Val Holmes? If you don't have Val Holmes now, Origin round 13, I wouldn't be touching him now. He's actually played pretty poorly, so he's going to start to leak some cash. He does have a 90-odd break even against the West Tigers, so he could go large this week, but then you miss him next week. So I'd probably rather maximize the amount of availability or available players that I'd have over the next 7 weeks. So would I get Val Holmes? No, not right now. Maybe we can look at bringing him back in. If you don't have him, you can get him for the run home for the Cowboys if they start to play some better footy. Edge is the next question. If Origin wasn't a factor, how would you rank these two RFs based on predicted average for the rest of the year? So Hamoli Olakawatu, Eli Katoa, and Jermaine Hopgood. And thoughts whether KPP to one of them would be sideways. At the moment, if we look at the rankings or the averages for these 3 players that we mentioned, Eli Katoa 74.8, Hamoli Olakawatu 74.4, and then Jermaine Hopgood 70.3. I would probably rate them. I've got 2 answers here, I guess. I think Eli Katoa was on maybe the better team. I know Manly score a lot of points, but without Turbo, that kind of hurts. So I would probably say Eli Katoa is the better pick, but Hamoli Olakawatu is the guy that scares me the most as a non-owner. I know that's maybe a little bit Switzerland of me sitting on the fence with that one, but yeah, it's Olakawatu is a guy I find that I always gravitate to and end up owning at some point during the year, personally. Purely just because he's such a good line runner and he's so bloody powerful. He can kind of, if he gets the 5'8" one-on-one on that right edge, good luck trying to stop that bloke close to the line. And it seems to be a bit of a go-to play for DCE to hit Olakawatu short when they're close to the line within 10 meters. So Olakawatu, yeah, I'm more scared to not own him. And he's only 0.4 of an average away. I know he did get suspended and he missed that. He missed some time there. So for me, Olakawatu, I think could probably be the pick, but I think Eli Katoa just being on the better team with Jerome Hughes coming back soon in the next, either this week or potentially after the bye. Eli Katoa could probably end up averaging more, I think, just being on a better Storm unit. But yeah, Jermaine Hopgood, unfortunately, number 3 for me in that one. There's just a lot of meat and potatoes about Hopgood. As good as he is, fantastic player. I just think for the most part, it's all work rate for Jermaine Hopgood. So the attacking upside is limited when you compare him to the other 2 guys. Would I consider KPP to one of those guys sideways? Not necessarily, but it all comes down to where KPP is. If he's your 2RF3, there's a straight up upgrade to one of those 3 guys. Absolutely. If he's your 2RF4 or 5, I reckon he's fine there on the bench. You can play him on matchup or you can play him when he gets named to start. I don't know whether you'd need to move KPP on. I think that's a luxury trade if ever I've seen one. I'd probably just depend on your situation. If he's your 2RF3, yep, move him on, upgrade him. If he's your 2RF4 or 5, you can probably hold him, I think. Considering also, we've got to remember that you can only end up playing 4 of these bench guys at one time. So for me, I'm not going to load up on 3 gun 2RFs that are going to sit on my bench every week because I'm always probably going to play a second halfback. I'm always going to play a second fullback, and I'm probably also going to stack my center wing and play a center wing reserve. So realistically, you've only really got room for one more reserve there every single week, and it might have to be a 2RF. It might have to be a 5'8" 1 week, depending, because there's a high upside or a good matchup. You're not really ever going to play your bench hooker or your bench front row forward. So you've got to match that up as well and look at, do I really even need to stack my 2RF that deep? when I'm going to be playing the other positions more often than not most weeks. So something to consider there for you, Edge, as well. Dr. Hamo, is Dane Gagai to Scotty Drinkwater too sideways? Is it worth a trade? No, honestly, probably not. Dane Gagai won't play Origin this year. I know Hamo's an overall player. Obviously, we're in a head-to-head comp together as well, but he predominantly is an overall player. Sitting pretty nice in the rankings. I think he's top 10K, made a good little move recently. Dane Gagai, I don't think I'd need to trade him out, especially with the fact that the Knights have a really nice draw and nice availability through that little Origin period. Drinky will miss round 16 and 19 due to the Cowboys bye. So not ideal. They do have a half-decent run against the Tigers this week, but things stiffen up pretty quickly for the Cowboys. And if we look at the 13 to 20 draw, and I'll move the banner off the screen very quickly, you'll see the Cowboys there. They come up against the Roosters, obviously, without Tedesco, but I'll tell you what, Joey Manu at the back, scary enough. They'll probably get romped by the Roosters. The Warriors, this could be a little bit of a comeback game. The Cowboys just aren't filling me with any confidence at the moment, unfortunately. But they play the New Zealand Warriors at home, and then they've got the Raiders at home, but the Raiders have been pretty gritty lately. So I really don't mind them. And then they've got Panthers and Manly in between those two buys. So, if you've missed the last maybe 3-4 weeks of Scotty Drinkwater, I think you probably need to let him through to the keeper now, Hamo. That's my opinion on that one anyway. I think, if you don't have him now, maybe just pass and same maybe goes for Val Holmes so close to Origin. That's probably the way that I would approach that one. The next question from Sloan Ranger. Is Talangi a buy this week if I don't own him? Now, this is the question of the week. Same question for Armstrong next week. If I don't have either of them, am I buying both potentially, one this week, one next week? For Sloan Ranger, he plays head-to-heads, doesn't have buy rounds turned on, and is a bit behind the pack and needs a few wins now to make finals. So you probably need to be a little bit more aggressive with your trades if you are behind the pack in head-to-head. Is Talangi a buy this week if I don't own him? Now, this has probably divided a bit of the community. It feels like Trey Fuller all over again. Do I buy or sell Trey Fuller, or do I let him through? Talangi's got a negative 60 odd break even, so he's going to step on the field and make you 50K this week. The only issue is you've missed his first big cash rise, which was over 100K last week, so he's nearly 400K. So for me, I don't have him and I don't plan on buying him at the moment because I've got Armstrong already. You don't. So that's maybe the thing here. I've got Iro, Armstrong, and Jacob Gagai on my bench that are all still either Iro's a solid play and the other two are making some great cash and probably playable some weeks as well. So for me, I'm probably letting Talangi through. You can't buy them all. This isn't Pokemon. You can't catch them all. So I think sometimes you've got to just look at a break even and go, yeah, sorry, as much as that's enticing, I just can't do it. It just doesn't make sense for me to make that trade. Now, the question becomes, does Talangi stay at fullback and Gutherson come back and play he won't play in the halves because that'll be Moses and Brown, but does he come in and play in centre? Which could potentially happen. I don't think it's going to, though. My personal opinion is Gutho's leadership at the back is very necessary for Parramatta at the moment. They can't have a young kid at the back when they're trying to really get themselves out of a rut. They've just had a coaching changeover. It'll be very interesting to see whether Trent Barrett leans into Talangi when Gutherson's fit. Does Talangi go to centre? I'd probably say that's the way it'll go. Gutho will go to fullback, where he's always been, and he'll lead from the back. And Talangi will get some experience, and they'll try and re-sign Talangi probably and get him some time at centre and one of those guys at centre like Sean Russell. Move him on. The best play is to get Talangi on the field and let him play some footy. So I would say Talangi plays centre. He's scoring will cop a hit at centre, but he's still got a couple of scores. So I don't mind it. But you've got to look at who you're trading out. And if you've got a guy like Schiller or, one of these other beaten up centre wings that have kind of underperformed or topped out in cash like a Bostock or someone like that, then getting Talangi, I don't mind it. But if you've got already some guys that are making good cash on the bench, then I don't think it's worth it. Same question for Armstrong. Now, Armstrong, I look at a little bit differently because the job security actually still looks solid for Armstrong, and the Knights' buy schedule is outstanding. So for me, I'm prioritising Armstrong over Talangi as a buy. But obviously, with Armstrong on the buy this week and going to miss a week, I can wait next week and I'd pick up Armstrong next week for sure. Talangi this week, I'm just unsure on. So it might come back to bite me in the ass, but you never know. If we look at the Knights draw very quickly, where are we? The Knights draw. They've got the Bulldogs in round 13. Nice matchup. Melbourne and Penrith, not ideal, but then they miss 16, and then they've got 17, 18, 19, 20. So they've got Para, Canberra, Manly that all will probably concede some decent points from 17, 18, 19. So a couple of tough games there. But obviously Penrith without Cleary. The Warriors just knocked them off. So, it might not be as tough. I think the Knights have a pretty nice draw through that period. So, yeah, I'd probably be looking in that direction. But, Armstrong's my pick over Talangi, unfortunately, for probably me a little bit later on when I miss out on some cash. Now, Brent's back with his multiple questions every week. We love that. Brent, what's your choice between Weeks or Wishart? Tough one, because I'm talking to a Canberra supporter here. I probably should say Weeks, shouldn't I? For me, we've seen some positive signs from KO Weeks. If we pull up KO Weeks scores very quickly, if I can do it quick while I'm on the fly, his last few weeks have been quite impressive. I mean, he's only played, I think, 3 games this year. He's got a negative 28 break even, and he's played 3 games. So he had his first price rise of about 75K last week, which is great. So for anybody who got on, congratulations. He got 38 against the Sharks. So initially that 38 didn't look too promising, but then he's gone 69 and 67 against Manly and the Bulldogs. When we look at the stats, he didn't get any goal kicking against the Bulldogs in that game, but he had a try contribution and a try assist. He also had a try and a try assist against Manly. In fantasy, he's definitely a buy because you get points for kick meters, but in Supercoach you don't. 18 and 27 tackles in that week as well, but against the Bulldogs he had 16 points in tackle breaks. So he's getting involved and he's got his hands on the ball, a line break as well himself, running the ball pretty confidently. He's looked pretty good. So that 38 will drop out of his rolling average as well. So what we'll find is if he puts up another score here this coming week, he could make you probably 200K and be in the 500K mark and upgrade to a keeper in potentially even 4 to 5 weeks. And with the Canberra Raiders playing round 13 and round 16, he could be quite valuable. You just need to be quite careful with how many round 14 buy players that you have from Roosters, Raiders, and Dolphins. They're the 3 that I'd be looking at. So if you've got 6+ Roosters, Raiders, and Dolphins players, I would probably end up having to pass on Weeks. But if you've got 4 or less of those 3 players, or maybe you plan on bringing in Manu next week or something, you just got to be careful. If you've got 4 or less, pull the trigger. If you've got 6 or more, I would probably have to let Weeks through to the keeper and pick Wishart. Storm's draw for Wishart frees up and he'll play 16 and 19. So Wishart kind of seems like the obvious buy in round 14. But if you need the cash from a downgrade or something like that to free up to move another direction, then he's got a -7 break even this week with Wishart. And every time he's played 80 minutes, he seems to belt out a score. In the games he's played 80 minutes this year, he's gone 84, 85, and 40. So pretty solid. The guy loves to run the ball as well, so I don't know whether we'll see too many try assists from him, but we'll definitely see some line breaks and some tries, which in those 2 scores there, he definitely racked up. So, yeah, who's my pick? Probably Weeks, just due to job security moving forward, and I think the fact that, him and Strange have done pretty well together. The Raiders are starting to come good. Wishart, a bit more of a shorter-term play, but I don't mind either. It's a bit hard to pick either, but I think you can't really go wrong with either of these ones. Now, the second question from Brent, who do you prefer out of Wishart and Garrett combo or Dillbags and Kohler? Oh, tough one. Probably Dillbags and Kohler, personally. I think 5'8" is just such a more valuable position to have a solid player in like Dylan Brown, where he will essentially get you 60 plus every single week, and his base is coming back up. Mitchell Moses is going to come back into the team, which hopefully will free him up a little bit more to link up and use his running game a bit more. So I prefer the Dillbags and Kohler combo over Wishart and Garrick at this point in time, because Kohler could be an absolute jet as well at fullback with Turbo out. So yeah, definitely option B for me. Now, the third question from Brent, I know front row forward is a bit of a wasteland, but if you wanted to improve your front row forward 2, and he's got AFB as number 1, excluding Payne Haas due to Origin, who would you get? Now, this is a bit of a tricky question. I'm looking at Jack DeFellon. Yeah, that's fine. I'm all for that. Fair game. But feels dirty, and it should feel dirty. It should feel dirty to get Jack DeFellon. But allegedly, Jack DeFellon. Now, to answer your question, you know what? I've been actually looking at Max King. Now, I was a big Max King throbber, I guess, in the preseason, and so is Josh. And we saw 62 minutes from him on the weekend, which is that a bit of an anomaly, or is that an outlier? 63 minutes. there's a point a minute there. He's gone at a point a minute all season. It's just the minutes that are the concern. Like when we look at his scores though this year, he started pretty slowly and he started to heat up 68, 70. Then he had a bit of a 54, 47, 53, and then he's gone 64 at a point per minute against the Raiders last week. Now, the reason I say Max King is purely because he can play 13, 14, and 16 in the short term. So the only bye he has is round 15. So unless you've got fucking 6 Bulldogs in your team, I think he's a pretty safe pick and you won't get caught out in the mini buys. I do like Max King as a front row forward too, to pair with AFB. Jack DeBellin is quite expensive as well from memory. I think Max King's only 550K. If we look at Jack DeBellin is 614K. So you can save 64K there. And also Jack DeBellin's been coming off the bench, which is weird. Usually if he's starting, he's a fantastic option, but there's just that insecurity there with, or the inconsistency, I should say, with Jack DeBellin and whether he starts, whether he comes off the bench, whether they shuffle him around an hour before kickoff. Just a lot going on there to consider for him. And I feel like maybe Jack DeBellin's more of a chance of getting suspended as well than rather than Max King. So I'd probably pick Max King if I had to pick a front row forward. I don't think I'm really missing anybody, am I? Tom Hazelton's been fantastic, but apparently he's in Origin contention, which is, I don't blame him. He's been fantastic, but 638K, a little bit expensive. Just looking down the list here, Joey Tarpany again, like he's just been quite mid and quite ordinary. If we look at Joey Tarpany's front row forward scores recently, he's had one score of 81 and a 72, and then everything else has either been a 50 or a 40. He even has a 30 in there, which is very un-Joey Tarpany-like. The minutes are between 45 to 60 minutes most weeks. Yeah, don't know. I need to see a little bit more from Taps before I jump on. But yeah, I'm all on board Max King, I think. I like him, and I think we might see an uptick through the Origin period now that he's got into his work. And the last one for Brent, if I sell Val this week, Val Holmes, do you think he's a trade back in? I don't really have the trades to get guys out and get back in. Yes, welcome to my world. I think if you sell Val, no, I don't think you probably get him back in. The Cowboys haven't really shown me enough. Val this week could be he's definitely a hold. We call him a hold in the buy, hold and sell purely because he's coming up against a rookie center for the Tigers, one of the worst teams in the comp. Young guy, he'll look to prove himself and hopefully there's a bit of a bounce back there. But Tigers and Cowboys games are really strange. There's always something weird going on, like when the Tigers knocked them off by 60 or whatever it was, and then the Cowboys put 70 on them when they played them later in the year. It was it made me cry inside. But yeah, I haven't seen enough, I don't think. And the Cowboys look like they're fading. Definitely pretenders this year, unfortunately. Sorry, Cowboys fans. But I'd hold Val this week. But then if you're going to plan on moving him on, I don't know whether you buy him back, if I'm completely honest. There's so many good centre wing options that I'd probably look elsewhere and just look for the form and look for the nice run for the run home. Now, Troz asking, does the halves shake up at the Rabbitohs, being Cody Walker going to halfback and Jack Whiten coming in and playing 5'8"? Does that mean that Gagai sees a bit more maul and thus is a better and more viable option to reserve this week? First of all, South's playing against Para, where Parramatta have leaked, I think we said on the podcast the other night, Parramatta have leaked like 23 tries to centres and wingers this year, which is by far and away the most in the competition. So for me, if you can get a reserve or play a guy that's a chance of scoring a try each week, yes, Gagai could be a genuine play this week. Are you game enough to sit one of your other good options or a Kaeliro or someone like that to play Jacob Gagai for the upside and risk the fact that he could score a 17 or he could score 100? That's the decision you need to make this week. But I do think he's a better play. Now, does the halves shake up affect that? I don't know too much, to be honest. I know Cody Walker will probably end up shifting left more than he shifts right, just due to habit, really. His whole career at the Rabbitohs, he's played 5'8" and he's played on the left edge, and I'd be very surprised to see him move over to the right and be really right side dominant. I'd say he's probably just going to go back into default and end up kind of shifting left naturally. So I don't know whether it benefits Gagai too much, but I think they'll be targeting edges regardless, and I think they'd be silly not to target left edge more than right edge, considering they've got the highest try scorer in the game at the moment in Alex Johnson on that left wing. So that's my opinion. And we know that Trell probably likes to pop up on the left more than he does the right too, which doesn't help Gagai at all, being on the right wing. Other reserve options are Hughes, Henry, Lussick, and Fainu, who all are mid. So yeah, take Gagai on. do Gagai as your last reserve and take the upside, because this, if you're ever going to pick Gagai in your team, this is the matchup to do it against the Eels, who leaked 1 million tries to centres and wingers. Mally with the next one. Hey, Braino, I'm going Terrell, May and Cleary to Katoa and Hughes. After this trade, I'll have 23 trades and 3 boosts. Is it worth using a boost to go Taylor and May to Talangi or Farlogo? All right, so let's break this down. So May and Cleary to Katoa and Hughes are outstanding trades. They're real nice. So I'm all for them. And then after that, 23 trades and 3 boosts is still a bloody good spot. Who has 3 boosts? Very impressive. Mally, good restraint. Is it worth using that boost? I'd pull a boost this week, to be honest. I don't mind that. And as long as you're setting yourself up for future weeks. My pick here, if I had to go Taylor and May to either one of these two, I'd just go Talangi, just due to the fact that you've got 3 boosts up your sleeve. You'll have 22 trades, which will be probably the same as me. But the boost might get you out of a bit of trouble a little bit later on. So would I pick Talangi or Farlongo? Pappenhausen's due back, I think, in round 16. I think 16 or 17. So you still got a good 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of Farlongo left. So I still think I'd pick Talangi. I think they've got to keep him in the team at some point. So yeah, I know I probably said I'd fade Talangi, but if you're picking out of one of these 2 options, I'd pick Talangi over Farlongo at the moment. It just seems like, and the reason for that, I guess maybe I should expand, is the fact that Farlongo he has to do so much to score Supercoach points. It felt like Talangi just racked him up the other night. He only scored obviously 1 try, but had a heap of tackle breaks and stuff. Like Farlongo, if I read through his stats, I'd be here for 5 minutes trying to read through all of the attacking stats, and I think he only still scored 90. So yeah, that's my pick. Now Troz has another one for us. Still have Yam taking up space, or Taylor and May. Have just enough for Joey Manu, but concerned that this leaves him with 10K in the bank. Is Taylor and May to Blaze Talangi a better choice to keep funds in hand to strike next week? The answer is no. I would, if you had $100 left in the bank and you could do Taylor and May to Joey Manu, you pull that trigger, because Joey Manu could be the highest scorer over the next fortnight. Obviously, with the Roosters bye in round 14, consider your round 14 availability and the numbers that you have there on the bye. But I'm trying my best, and if I don't have to trade Reece Walsh out late this week and pivot and go to Edwards or something like that, I will be using my cash in the bank next week to probably get Joey Manu in and just put the captaincy on him. And I think he will be the most. Actually, I know he will be the most captain player next week for the Roosters. So yeah, get Joey Manu in. Don't worry about the cash. You'll be able to find downgrades a little bit later on. That's not an issue, but Manu will be. Yeah, Manu's a guy you need to get in. We got Isaac. Is Chan to Lukey a waste of a trade? Look, I guess it just depends. I'm assuming Chan's your 2RF6. Helam Lukey, very, very cheap at the moment. Like, he was, I wouldn't say popular, but he was definitely a guy that people were jumping on to start the season, and I was one of them. I'm a big Helam Lukey fan. If you're probably asking the wrong person on an opinion on Helam Lukey, because my opinion is to get him into your team straight away, especially when he's this cheap. It looks like he's starting again. I don't know whether he's going to find 80 minutes again. You're probably going to get maybe 55 minutes best out of him. But he does probably need attack to be relevant. And I'm not a huge fan of the Cowboys, but for me, I'm just more of a fan of Helam Lukey. So, and Chan is obviously a dead body on your bench, not doing anything for you at the moment. So having that depth through the origin period will be pretty crucial. And it's an extra round 13 number for you, as well, as opposed to a guy who's not even going to play. So, dead body versus a live body, so to speak. I think that's the way to go. So yeah, I like it. Now, a couple of very, very important questions that I like to answer every week. It's these little lifestyle questions that the boys keep popping in for me. First one from Brent. Do you call those kids' juices Prima, Popper, Juice Box, or something else? Now, interesting. I've always called them poppers. I don't know whether it was what my parents, the terminology my parents used when I was growing up, but poppers, it's always been a popper for me. Just chuck the straw in. Those sunshine kind of passion fruit ones, sunshine punch, I think they're called. And you get them in the little 6-packs at Woolies. Yeah, that's me. That's my jam. So juice, not a juice box. That's American. Juice box is American. So, if you're using the word juice box, say the word popper, for God's sake. Now, Mr. Callio, last question for tonight. Soup season. Yeah, it is soup season. It's starting to get quite cold. I'm in Sydney at the moment, and I think this morning was like 6 degrees. Not a fan of the cold weather. What's the go-to soup? I'm a pumpkin soup man. Which is weird because I'm not a pumpkin fan. I won't have. I'm not a big fan of pumpkin, roast pumpkin, just pumpkin by itself for dinner. But give me pumpkin soup, and I'll have a gallon on it. I'll have a gallon of it. So yeah, pumpkin soup is my go-to. Let us know in the comments what your go-to soup is, because I tell you what, some pumpkin soup watching the footy wouldn't be bad if I wasn't having about 10 beers. Now, guys, that brings us to the end. And of course, if you do want to get your questions answered on the podcast every single week, you can become an Insight Unlimited member. We would love the support. And it only costs you $20 until the end of, or sorry, I should say the start of the NRL season next year. You get access to all of us, our trades. You get answers, question and answer inside the Discord as well. So we're constantly answering trade questions in there. And you also get to answer or ask your more detailed questions for the podcast that I can speak to and give you a bit more detail with. So you can do that. $20, hop in my DMs, I'll lead you in the right direction, and you get access to SC Whisperer and the SC Matrix. And of course, it's not just NRL, you get AFL. The boys over there are doing a cracker job with their Insight AFL show. Supercoach is ramping up there, and NBL and BBL coming at the end of the year. We also have podcasts for both of those sports, as well as NBA and NFL if you're an American sports fan like we are. So you get full access to us for only $20 for the rest of this year. So yeah, we'd love you to get involved. And of course, thanks to Ryan for sponsoring the show. Like I mentioned at the start of the show, you can hop in the description and just click on his link tree. And if you do want to get in touch and you want to drop that interest rate, you can hit him up there. Guys, thanks for watching and listening. We'll be back for the Sunday wrap-up show. Good luck this week. Hopefully plenty of green arrows. Until then, I'll see you later.